You know that person who will carry 6 grocery bags up 3 flights of stairs before texting, "Can you help me?" The person who is overwhelmed, exhausted behind, silently panicking and still says, "No, I got it." They will troubleshoot the broken printer, lift the heavy box, stay late at work, handle the family problem, figure out the insurance form, and pretend the headache is just background noise. Then someone finally asks, "Why didn't you say something?" And they honestly do not know how to answer. Because for people who never ask for help, silence is not always pride. Sometimes it is training. They are often judged as stubborn, cold, controlling, too independent, or impossible to support. People assume they want to do everything alone, but many of them do not actually want the weight. They just learned somewhere along the way that needing help was more dangerous than needing nothing. So let's reverse the judgment. People who never ask for help are not always trying to prove they are strong. Sometimes they are trying to avoid the old feeling of being disappointed after they were finally honest about needing someone. That is a very different story. Because asking for help is not just a practical action, it is an emotional risk. You are letting another person see the place where you cannot keep carrying everything by yourself. You are giving them a small piece of power, the power to show up, ignore, you judge you, minimize you, or make you feel like a burden. For some people that risk feels normal. For others, it feels like standing in the middle of a room without a coat on. They may have grown up in families where everyone was busy, overwhelmed, emotionally, distant, or unpredictable. Maybe help was technically available, but it came with sighs, lectures, teasing irritation, or a long emotional bill. Maybe asking meant hearing, "You should know this already." Maybe needing comfort made someone roll their eyes. Maybe the safest strategy was to become useful, quiet, and low maintenance. A child does not call that a coping strategy. A child just calls it Tuesday. Over time, the nervous system can turn self-reliance into a rule. Do not need too much. Do not ask too loudly. Do not become a problem someone has to solve. And by adulthood, that rule can look like personality. This is why the person who never asks for help may seem incredibly capable on the outside. They know how to research, plan, manage, anticipate, fix, and keep moving. They can be the reliable coworker, the calm sibling, the friend who remembers everyone's crisis, the parent who handles the invisible logistics of the house. But being capable is not the same as being supported. Sometimes capability is just what happens when support was not dependable enough. There is also the fear of burdening people. Many help-avoidant adults are not thinking, "I am better than everyone." They are thinking, "Everyone already has enough." They imagine their request landing on someone else's crowded life like one more heavy box, so they edit themselves down. They ask for less than they need. They apologize before speaking. They turn requests into jokes. They say, "Only if it's easy when it is not easy." They say, "No worries if not," before the other person has even had a chance to care. This is not simple politeness. Sometimes it is pre-rejection. If you make your need tiny enough, maybe it will not hurt if someone steps over it. Research on help-seeking, especially around health and mental health support, often points to barriers like self-reliance, stigma, cost access, not recognizing the need as serious, and fear of judgment. We do not need to turn that into a diagnosis to understand the everyday version. Many people delay asking because they have trained themselves to survive the delay. They tell themselves, "It is not that bad." They compare their stress to someone else's worst situation. They wait until the problem becomes undeniable. And by the time they finally ask, they are not asking from a calm place. They are asking from the edge of collapse. That is one of the hidden costs of never needing anyone. You do not become free. You become late. Late to rest. Late to be known. Late to get help, while help could still feel simple. And because they wait so long, the request can come out awkwardly. Too intense. Too vague. Too casual, too late. Then if the response is imperfect, it confirms the old rule. See, this is why I handle things myself. The loop protects itself. Another reason people avoid asking is control. When you do everything yourself, you know the standard. You know the timeline. You do not have to explain the backstory, tolerate someone's advice, manage their mood, or risk them doing it halfway. Control can feel peaceful when trust has felt expensive. But control also has a ceiling. At some point, the life you can manage completely alone becomes smaller than the life you actually need. You stop inviting people into the messy middle. They only see the finished version, the solved problem, the cleaned kitchen, the paid bill, the calm face. The final update that says, all good now. And because they only see the finished version, they may believe you do not need anything. This is the painful irony. The better you are at hiding need, the less practice people get at helping you. Then loneliness starts to wear the costume of independence. You might even feel resentment, not loud resentment, quiet resentment. The kind that says, why does no one notice how much I do? But the people around you may not know what they were not allowed to see. That does not mean your pain is fake. It means your protection has been very effective. There is a shadow side here, and it matters. Never asking for help can make you look strong while quietly making you unavailable to love. Not because you are unlovable, but because intimacy needs some access. People cannot meet you if every door has a sign that says, I'm fine. Peace and isolation can look similar from the outside. So can independence and emotional shutdown. Healthy independence says, I can stand on my own, and I can also receive support. Protective isolation says, if I need no one can hurt me. One gives you options, the other gives you armor. And armor is useful in a fight, but exhausting as everyday clothing. The goal is not to become helpless. It is not to outsource your life demand rescue or turn every discomfort into an emergency. The goal is to become more accurate. Ask before the crisis. Ask when the box is heavy, not after your back gives out. Ask when the form is confusing, not after the deadline passes. Ask when you need company, not only when loneliness has already convinced you that no one cares. Start small, because your system may not believe safety just because your mind likes the idea. Try one clear request. Could you sit with me while I make this call? Can you help me move this on Saturday? Can I talk through something without advice for 10 minutes? Would you check in with me tomorrow? A clean request is not a burden. It is information. It gives the other person a real chance to show you who they are. And yes, sometimes people will not show up well. That part is real. Some people are limited, distracted, defensive, or unsafe with vulnerability. Learning to ask for help does not mean handing your softest truth to everyone with a pulse. Discernment still matters, but one unreliable person should not become evidence that all support is dangerous. The deeper healing is not proving you can do everything alone. You already know that version of strength. The deeper strength is letting someone reliable stand close enough to make the load lighter. Maybe you are not stubborn. Maybe you became hard to help because at some point being easy to ignore hurt too much. Maybe you are not cold. Maybe you learned to keep your needs quiet so no one could use them against you. But the next chapter is not needing nothing. The next chapter is learning which needs deserve a voice which people have earned access, and which version of you no longer has to carry the whole room alone. Because you are not weak for needing help. You are human for having weight, and you are allowed to stop proving you can survive without support when what you really need is a life where support is allowed to exist. So here is the question when you say, I got it. Is it peace or is it armor?